Pikachu! Oh wait, why am I wearing this? Why am I Pikachu today? Why not? Why not? I feel like a Pikachu, so I'm going to be a Pikachu today. Got lots of Mr. Men stories for you, but I'm not sure which one I'm going to read first. Can you see? I went into the library and borrowed lots of books. I think I'm going to choose the first one. And it is Mr. Men Trip to the Moon. One day, Mr. Nonsense was reading the Nonsense Land Times when he had the idea of going to the moon. Well, if a cow can jump over it, then it can't be too hard to get to, he announced to no one in particular. Later that day, he mentioned the idea to Mr. Greedy. Mr. Greedy thought it was an excellent plan. I hear the moon's made of cheese, he said, licking his lips. I like cheese. But Mr. Greedy did put Mr. Nonsense straight about one thing. It's a very long, long way away. So they went to see Mr. Clever. What we need is a space rocket, explained Mr. Clever. A space rocket is something that I've always wanted to build. Will that be very difficult? Asked Mr. Nonsense. Well, it is rocket science, so the answer is yes, said Mr. Clever, who'd rather like to show off. While Mr. Clever built the rocket, the other two set about choosing fellow astronauts to travel with them. Mr. Nosy could not go because the space helmet would not fit over his gigantic nose. Mr. Tickles and Mr. Tall could not go because neither of them could fit into the spacesuits. And Little Miss Splendid refused to take off her hat, which was no good at all. Mr. Clever had finished the rocket in record time. Clever him, and the day of the launch arrived. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, blast off! Cried Mr. Clever, pressing the launch button. But nothing happened. Nothing happened because Mr. Forgetful had forgotten to fill the fuel tank. Wah, wah, wow. An hour later, the rocket took off, roaring up into the sky, trailing a great cloud of smoke. It rose higher and higher into the air, high above the earth, through the atmosphere and into outer space. Oh my, cried Mr. Worry. I'm floating. And so he was. And so was everyone else. We don't weigh so much in space, explained Mr. Clever cleverly. The air is much thinner up here. Unlike Mr. Greedy, chirped Mr. Rude rudely. It wasn't long before Mr. Greedy began to feel hungry, so he cooked spaghetti for everyone. Perhaps not the most sensible idea. When they arrived, Mr. Nonsense was the first to walk on the moon because it had all been his idea, although he kept an eye out for jumping cows. It was Mr. Worry who discovered strange footprints on the surface of the moon, which he followed. While worrying, he was about to bump into space aliens. He was rather relieved to find out it was little Miss Scary walking on her hands. Mr. Small could not believe it. He could lift Mr. Greedy above his head with just one finger. Ding! Everyone had a wonderful day on the moon, except for Mr. Greedy, who was disappointed to discover the moon is not made of cheese. "I told you so," said Mr. Clever, something that Mr. Clever never tires of saying. The next day, they packed up and went home. It had been a splendid adventure, and Mr. Nonsense was very pleased with himself. And so were all who lived in Nonsense Land, all except one. Go to the moon? What nonsense! Said the cow. The end. Bye-bye. Next book now. Bye. Can you see me? Hold on. Camera's a bit wonky. And into outer space. Let's do that part again. Rewind. Better? Better? Oh wait. There you go. Let me try like this. Can you see? Ah, there you go. Chips, Mr. Rudely. What? Let's do that page again. He could fit Mr. Greedy above his head with one finger. And I read that part wrong. Again. Let's move this up a little bit more. Sliding down. There you go. That page again. Are you ready? Oh my! Cried Mr. Worry. I'm floating.